Hello, everybody. It's Mr. G, the History Teach, coming at you today again about another German wonder weapon. However, this one is arguably one of the most important, the V-2 rocket. While I want to discuss the V-2, I actually want to talk about what happened to the V-2 rocket after World War II. So, over the course of towards the end of World War II, the V-2 was developed as a kind of a retaliation for all the bombing that was occurring in Europe. And this was Germany's response to them. A long-range weapon that they could fire from the safety of Germany and hit places like France and the UK and absolutely devastate them without actually having to waste airplanes and manpower. And so by the end of the war, they'd actually built thousands of these. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, the Allies stopped them before they could really fully deploy the weapon. With the end of the war, the Allies, each main powers, the British, the United States, and the Soviet Union, wanted to get their hands on these rockets. The British developed Operation Backfire, which essentially Operation Backfire was the British went in, captured every available German rocket site they could get their hands on, launched several in a test, and then took what they could and left. Similar to the British, the Soviets also captured a number of V-2 rockets and even employed a series of German staff that had actually worked on them. Now, they took them back to the Soviet Union eventually and allowed them to develop the V-2 further, including making an exact copy of the V-2 known as the R-1. And this would continue through a different series of rockets. The R-2 was an upgraded version of the R-1. There was an R-5 rocket, which was even a more upgraded version of the R-2. And it all led to something known as the R-7. So the R-7 is important, as the R-7 would be the first vehicle to launch an artificial satellite into space, the Sputnik. And later they would build the R-7 series of rockets, which are still in production to this day and used by Russia to launch men into space. Now, the United States would follow a similar suit in developing the V-2 into their own series of rockets, and the direct descendants of the American V-2 is known as the Redstone series. And the Redstones were the United States' first ballistic missile to carry a live nuclear warhead. But more important than that, the Redstone rockets gave birth to the Mercury Redstone, which would launch the first American into space. And so as you see here, this one rocket, the V-2 rocket, helped give birth to the very space race that would become a major part of what would be the Cold War. That's it for today, and we'll talk again in the future.